Greetings virtual wanderers, Aeon's here. Did you know that there exists a Sims game out there with an actual story to follow instead of an aimless sandbox? Well, you might not believe it, but we actually just covered it in the previous video. That game is the Urbz. And if you've watched that video, you know that we love the Urbz. Unlike The Sims, it gives you a story, a cool way to make styling your character affect your gameplay, and jobs. But there's always a but. No game is perfect, and that's what we're here for today. To talk about what makes this game, well, not perfect. So we're going to talk about where this funky retro life sim is lacking, and what could have been better when we take some pointers from other social sims. Let's start with the story. Most of you have probably already played The Sims, no matter which one it is. And you all know that traditional Sims games have absolutely zero story.
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
Urbz, on the other hand, is more linear, but that doesn't automatically make it better than The Sims. Because if you're hinting players with a linear experience, that experience, aka the story, has to be able to carry the game. And here's where they miss the mark. Because for some reason, the console and handheld version have different features. The console version barely has an actual story. You simply just move from district to district, going through a list of goals. And believe me when I say, they will feel repetitive in the end. The handheld version does have a slightly more well thought of story, which has a more involved antagonist, some slumlord developer named Daddy Big Bucks. I definitely don't want to mess with whoever thought of that name. Anyway, along the way, the game also has story missions you have to complete, but these missions feel like errands you have to run over 4 districts. A scaled down version that somehow has more story? The underlying problem in both versions is that the game barely has any memorable characters. I mean, who would remember the characters when they simply just exist to give you a mechanic in the game and nothing more?
I don't know who you are or what you want, but let me give you my credit card number.
This is what's missing from the game's story. These characters lack the spice that could have given them different personalities. They don't have any background story beyond that one line of dialogue that immediately gets buried under the power social move they just gave out. If only these characters had their own short story arcs where you have to step in to help them with their little personal squabbles. Stuff like this can help build relationships more naturally with the characters, instead of just using them to hand out mechanics. Maybe even tighten the bond between our character and them by including us in their stories. The Persona series might just have something to handle this though. Their social link system gives almost every single named character a story arc of their own. While going through these stories, you get to actually dive into their personal life and hardships they might have. You might even find out some unexpected twists, like Persona 5's Hifumi's backstory. I mean, the Urbz can actually build on this, because they already had the different themes going on across the different districts. All they had to do was build on the individual characters. I mean, come on, with a name like Isis Ice or Crisp and Black, you gotta have a kick-ass personal backstory to go along with it, right? Now the Urbz runs on one major mechanic, and that mechanic is reputation. For a surprisingly simple mechanic loop that you have to grind, what it builds around the game is actually what impresses me. You already know that there are different districts in the game, and each district has its own theme and culture, along with apartment tiers and other rewards to go with it, to push you to keep earning reputation. For you Sims fanatics out there, this mechanic replaces the social motive that you have in the mainline Sims games. The interesting part? The reputation mechanic actually resurfaced on some of the mainline Sims DLCs, like The Sims 2 Apartment Life, all the way up to The Sims 4 Journey to Batu. But back to the Urbz, naturally, to earn rep in each district, you just gotta fit in. For example, when you go to Diamond Heights, your rep increases when you glamorize your character. either by dressing the part or with glamorous interactions. That way, you roll up to a different district with different expectations. Or at least you're supposed to, because what the game's devs made out to be different actually became the problem. It's only different on the surface. Once you learn the loop to increasing your reputation in different districts, it becomes surprisingly simple. How simple? Well, once you know the right people to talk to, do the district-specific job, and complete the objectives that aren't all that deep to begin with, you earn reputation pretty quickly. And at that point, it'll even start to feel boring sometimes.
Getting kinda bored.
Now, it wouldn't be a problem if reputation wasn't a key factor in progression, but it is. Reputation unlocks apartments and new areas, and it works the same for the whole game. So grinding this with the same loop, no matter if it's Ice's ferret taming or Duke's chop shop flunky job, makes the game repetitive after a while. What I also realized is that your reputation level doesn't actually do anything to how the characters react to you, no matter how low or high it is. If only characters reacted to you a different way depending on your rep level. Something like karma system that tracks your actions. If you have bad karma, it can actually deny you jobs and promotions in the game. The overall game loop around reputation would be so much deeper. So not just enough rep opens the door, but how characters in different districts treat you based on how much reputation you have. Like a posh snob in Diamond Heights treating you like trash even though you're dressed well, just because you have low rep. This way it becomes much more reactive. What I do have to give the Urbz props for are the jobs. Unlike their bigger brother The Sims, the vanilla one, where they just send your character to who knows where for their jobs, you get to actually actively control your character to complete your jobs. It's like playing a minigame to earn money, and your performance actually affects your pay. You might also guess that every district's job is different as well. In one district you might be chopping sushi, in another you might be stripping the bike yourself. These job-specific tasks are even skill-gated into 3 levels as well, but this didn't stop them from becoming repetitive over time. What started as fun minigames turned out to be chores later on, because it felt like the jobs were just painted with a different task. The overall loop of it remained the same and predictable. It lacked choices and consequences that can affect the pay. What's interesting is that this feature, where you get to play the job, was actually later adopted on newer mainline Sims games as well. Yup, who would have thought they made the Sims games where you can actually see the character get some work done? The first game being The Sims 3 Ambitions. This version had the first real active career system, where you get to play out the job, like being a detective and question suspects, plant evidence, or extort someone for information. It's an upgrade to the simple skill check from the Urbz jobs. And later on in The Sims 4 Get to Work, it expands what The Sims 3 Ambitions had and transforms the different jobs in the game into what feels like whole different story branches. Who would have thought being a scientist could get you access to an alien world? I mean, the old Sims hinted it, but this takes it into a whole different level. So if the Urbz can take anything from their mainline counterparts, it's that their jobs can have so much more depth by having different activities, outcomes, and maybe even stories in them. Plus points if it even affects the districts that job is in, like affecting the bikes around the district or world when you become the top chop shop mechanic. I know I'd like to see that. If you agree and are enjoying this video so far, go ahead and smash that like button, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell because we'll be posting a lot more content like this in the future. When it comes to socializing, the Urbz goes back to splitting its mechanics on console and handheld. The console counterpart has the power socials, which the name suggests are power moves that can boost relationships. That's all they are though. Now, the handheld brings in topics. So if you bring up topics that the NPCs like by choosing from 3 broad topics, it can boost your relationship with them. This was a mechanic that was actually available from an older game, The Sims 1 Hot Date, where they also had interest-based social mechanics, with an additional feature where you can view what the Sims' interests were. So the Urbz actually used an interesting mechanic that was later even popularized by its mainline successors, The Sims 3 and 4. But, and this is a very big but, in the Urbz, it became a simple guessing game, with no depth behind why one particular NPC likes or dislikes a certain thing. And plus, when you do somehow pick the topic they don't like, it's not punishing enough. Either way though, the choices you see already clearly give out what they like, so there's barely any mystery to it. A popular farming life simulator with social mechanics actually has something that might help the Urbz. 2 games actually, I might add, Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley. These games solve the issue at hand by giving their game's social mechanics some mystery. If you haven't played these games before, which I genuinely doubt, you have no idea what each character's interests, likes, or dislikes are. You kind of have to pick them up through environmental and dialogue hints. Like, a character who works at a chicken farm probably likes eggs, right? Well, you'll just have to find out. But it's that sort of mystery and depth that the Urbz desperately need to begin with. At least that's what I think. Do you guys agree? Share your thoughts in the comments below. So what I'm saying is, the Urbz can keep their topics and color-coded success odds, but add some mystery to it. So Isis Ice might have her exotic ferret taming job, but even then, maybe she isn't all that into exotic animals to begin with. The job is, well, just a job. It's nuances in interests like those that can boost the game's social mechanics. The Urbz undoubtedly has one of the best styles when compared to all the other mainline Sims games. You can customize your style from head to toe. Plus points for making these styles actually matter in building reputation too, because every district has its own fashion identity. If you want to pass a VIP bouncer for the first time you visit a new district, you have to look the part. So clothes aren't just for show in this game, it actually acts as literal social access. I haven't seen this mechanic in any other life sim, but the Urbz essentially has no building mechanics. The game just gives you the keys to the apartments in the game. I mean, they do get bigger as you progress further into the game, but the most you can do is just mishmash some furniture here and there. So it really is missing that mainline Sims feeling of building your house from the ground up, and that could be a deal breaker for some, especially when all the mainline Sims have building mechanics. Now my question is, what if the Urbz not only took back the building mechanics from their mainline successors, but also improved on it? Well, they can take it from Paralives, for example. Paralives is what you can call The Sims on steroids. They take the building action up a notch by losing the grid. Yup, literally losing the grid in more ways than one. You can freely build walls at whatever angle you want, and it just clicks all together later on. And you can even stretch furniture to fit tight or big spaces. The Urbz could definitely do with the baseline building mechanics plus the extra customizability from Paralives. That, paired with its funky style, would for sure make an interesting game to play. At the end of the day though, the Urbz is still a unique game to play, with a lot of fantastic ideas that its mainline successors don't have, like character styling as gameplay, and it wouldn't hurt to see more games like this, especially when the genre is filled with a lot of the same old settings. I'm talking about the life sims that have a lot of suburban life, or making you go through your grandfather's fields in the middle of nowhere type of setting. But let's be honest, the game isn't perfect, because for each of those fantastic ideas, they fell short by at least one step for every single one of them. So if they somehow decide to continue this quirky little Sims spin-off in the future, hopefully they fix these problems. And when they do, I'll be right there at the front of the line to play the game. What do you guys think? Does it make you curious about the Urbz? If it does, you might want to check out our previous video, because we talked about why the Urbz is actually better than The Sims. Well, for some people anyway. Especially if you're into a more linear and hip version of The Sims. So go ahead and check that out. Okay, that's it for now, and until then, happy exploring.